A long time ago, in the sacred lands of ancient India, where forest hermitages echoed with chants and kings sought wisdom from rishis, lived a woman named Maitreyi. Maitreyi was not a queen, not a warrior, and not born to royalty. She was a seeker, a knower of truth, a woman whose mind reached for the eternal. She lived during the time of the Upanishads, the final and most philosophical portion of the Vedas. It was an age of deep reflection, where sages wandered through forests, not for conquest or wealth, but in search of the highest knowledge. The knowledge of Brahman, the eternal, unchanging reality behind all existence. Maitreyi was born into this world. She belonged to a scholarly family and became known for her deep understanding of the scriptures. But she didn't just study the words, she felt their meaning. She asked the kind of questions that go beyond rituals and reach straight to the soul. And her life would forever be remembered through her association with one of the greatest sages of all time, Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya was a towering figure in Vedic philosophy, a master of knowledge, a sage whose insights shaped the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one of the oldest and deepest spiritual texts in Indian philosophy. But Yajnavalkya was not only a philosopher. He was also a householder. He had two wives, Maitreyi and Katyayani. Katyayani was devoted to domestic life. But Maitreyi, she was different. She was his spiritual companion. She was more interested in truth than in household duties. One day, Yajnavalkya decided to renounce the world. He had fulfilled his responsibilities as a teacher and a householder. Now, it was time to walk into the forest and live the life of a renunciate. But before he left, he wanted to divide his wealth between his two wives. He called them both and said, "I am going to leave this world of possessions. Let me divide everything I have between you." Katyayani accepted her share silently. But Maitreyi looked at Yajnavalkya with eyes full of thought. She asked, "My lord, if I were to possess the entire earth filled with wealth, would I become immortal through it?" Yajnavalkya replied, "No. Your life would be like the life of the wealthy. But there is no hope of immortality through wealth." And then, with profound courage, Maitreyi said, "What should I do with that by which I do not become immortal? Teach me instead, Yajnavalkya. Teach me that which leads to immortality." Yajnavalkya was deeply moved. He had not expected this. In that moment, he saw in Maitreyi not a wife, but a fellow seeker, a soul ready to receive the highest knowledge. And so he began to teach her, not about gold or property, but about the self, about Brahman, about the essence of all things. He said, "The self alone is to be meditated upon. For all things are dear not for their own sake, but for the sake of the self. The husband is dear not for the sake of the husband, but for the sake of the self. The wife is dear not for the sake of the wife, but for the sake of the self." He explained that everything in this world, all relationships, all possessions, all experiences, are valuable only because of the self that experiences them. And to know that self is to go beyond birth and death. It is to become free. It is to become immortal. This conversation between Yajnavalkya and Maitreyi became one of the most powerful teachings in the Upanishads. Maitreyi listened, not with doubt or confusion, but with the clear attention of someone who was ready. She received the teachings, not as words, but as living truth. She showed the world that true wisdom does not come from age or gender or social status. It comes from the desire to know, the courage to ask, and the humility to learn. Maitreyi's life is a message. She reminds us that the pursuit of truth belongs to everyone, not just to men, not just to saints in forests, but to anyone who dares to ask, "What is real? Who am I? What lies beyond this body and this life?" She stood as an equal beside one of the greatest sages of India. She did not seek gold. She sought immortality. Not the immortality of the body, but the immortality of the soul. To this day, her dialogue is read, studied, and revered in spiritual circles across the world. She is remembered not just as Yajnavalkya's wife, but as his spiritual partner. Maitreyi was a true philosopher, a courageous seeker, and a shining example of the power of the feminine in Vedic wisdom. She did not want a world full of possessions. She wanted the truth that never fades. And in asking for that, she became eternal.